And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live and the Little Italy podcast.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our Little Italy podcast and also Deborah Kobylt Live. I'm so thrilled to welcome Joe Quagliano. He's president of the Italian American Baseball Foundation. He's pictured there. He's just returned from Italy, actually, on a scouting mission. So it's wonderful that he even joined us. I don't know if you're calling us from the car or whatever, but he was kind enough to make sure that he took the time for this interview. And then, of course, we have Chris Vaccaro, director of the IABF. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Deborah. We appreciate you having us.
Oh, well, This is exciting. Look, I come from a big baseball family. All I used to hear from my parents was about DiMaggio. My kids, one of them plays college baseball, big baseball fans. Grew up in New Jersey with Yankees. They happen to be Mets. I'm out in LA, so I like the Dodgers. We're one of those families. So when I had the opportunity to interview you about what matters so much to me, Italians, Italian heritage, and baseball, I jumped at it. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Yep. We're going into our 7th year, and we've come a long way. We have a great board with Chris and co-founder Carmine Gangone and Joe DiMartino and Natalie Spedalari. And the organization has grown tremendously in the 7 years. Mike Piazza is now the face of our organization, the Baseball Hall of Famer. And Mike is very into what we're doing, and he's a proud Italian American that now lives in Italy. And the IABF has grown tremendously with taking a lot of leaps forward with baseball activities in Italy and the U.S. And our scholarship program is now front and center for our organization. And Chris could tell you more about our scholarship program because he helps run it.
Absolutely. Chris, would you do that? But first, let's look at that backdrop behind you. And that's in your home office. What do we have going on there? Gorgeous.
Lots of bobbleheads, lots of baseballs, some Emmy Awards, prized family, heritage type things, pictures. There's a lot of stuff. It's everything in my world is in this room. Every accomplishment, every picture, every autograph, it's in my home office. So it's a nice backdrop. But honestly, it inspires me when I'm down here. I got to keep adding to it. Got to keep moving forward. Got to keep embracing the great stuff that we've got to experience in my media world or sports world. But I love when my kids come down here and check it all out and feel the need to read this stuff and see a little bit more about what I've done. And they're young. They're only 8, 6, and 3, but it really serves to inspire them, honestly.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we'll get into, your work as well later, as well as Joe. But tell me about your director of the Italian American Baseball Foundation. Tell me what the main focus is and why you all formed this.
Yeah, so Joe and Carmine had this idea obviously 7 years ago, and they were the founders. But the whole purpose was, let's take our passion for baseball and bridge the gap between Italy and America with the game that we love. And they did that to up to really the pandemic, and then it was a little sluggish there, obviously for all the reasons that we got to experience in society. And then that's when I came on board. So I've been on board for about 3 years, a little bit more, and together we've seen really major international growth. We've seen really big growth with our educational initiatives related to youth development and scholarships, and we've really seen the potential of what IABF can be. And we're not even there yet, but we've seen a lot of growth and success, especially since this post-pandemic world of reaching people on social media, traveling to Italy and making connections on an international level, providing scholarships to both Italian Americans and Italian students looking to come here to play baseball or softball in college, facilitating dialogue and assisting the Italian national baseball team during the World Baseball Classic was beyond our wildest dreams of what the potential of this nonprofit can be. And everything I've said, we've checked the box on. So it inspires us and fuels us to see, how do we keep going? How do we keep getting bigger and stronger and faster? And I believe at this point, we're a model for other countries to look at us and go, wow, there's no other baseball organization in the world literally doing what we're doing in connection to the growth of the game in another country, but also facilitating growth with that national team. So, and it all comes down to, again, what Joe and Carmine built, which was based on heritage, culture, fandom, and passion. And I'm just really proud to be associated with it. And the board does a really good collective job of working together to make it all happen.
Now, here, Italian Americans love their baseball, right? And by here, I mean in the U.S. But over in Italy, it tends to be more of a football culture, right? AKA, soccer. So when you go over there and young people are playing, how are you perceived when you go over there? I mean, because it's not as big there as it is here. So it's continuing to grow, right? In large part because of what you do.
True. There is a fan base and a culture of baseball in certain parts, certain cities, like Nettuno or Palmer. Those you could ask the citizens of those cities about baseball, and they'll know about it. They'll talk about it. You could go 5 miles away and ask the people in the next town. They never heard of baseball. It's very strange. It's really strange how it works. But there is a culture. There is a history. The Federation of Baseball and Softball in Italy has been around for, I believe, 70 some years. And the story goes that the American troops that landed in Anzio started to, after the battle, when they landed there, they started playing baseball on the beach. And the locals picked it up. They seen, what is this game the soldiers are playing? And they picked it up and took it from there. And baseball, at one point during the 60s and 70s, they were getting 5,000 to 6,000 people a game in the Italian baseball league. Yeah, they were doing well. They were on the right track. And then politics, I believe, got in the way in the 70s and 80s, and the 80s and 90s, and the attendance dropped drastically. And the game took a big hit. But this is where we come in, and we're trying to build it up again, and we're trying to find that first Mike Piazza or Joe DiMaggio that's born in Italy and bring them here to the States. And I think that would fuel a new growth in the game in Italy if we could do that.
Well, look, I mean, look who you've got as your manager of the Italian national team, right? You mentioned earlier, Mike Piazza. Right. I mean, what a great link right there between Italian players, budding Italian players, coming here to the U.S. I mean, this is just a win-win, right? It's great for the Italians. It's great for us. It's great for both countries to merge this passion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike is the best Italian-American baseball player since Joe DiMaggio, arguably. And to have someone like that behind you that lives in Italy, is the manager of the men's national team, that is a big plus for everyone. And that him alone is going to help grow the game more than anyone, more than we could do.
Absolutely.
The branding with his name is fantastic, but there's even the connection that we're trying to make with the Italian Americans who are playing Major League Baseball. There's dozens. I mean, just the other night, there were 24 players selected in the Major League Baseball draft from high schools and colleges with Italian American ancestry, at least 24. There may be some other ones. And so every little connection to the names here that are thriving in the game, we're hoping to use that to inspire the kids over there. And yeah, of course, we want to make the next Piazza, DiMaggio, Berra, but we want to get the feeder system where there's a ton of minor leaguers who raised through, single A, double A, can at least get to the leagues. There's been very, very few that have been able to crack that code. And we look at this, I mean, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. This is about development. It's about investing in branding and marketing and players and, some of the stuff that we're starting to do. So we're in for the ride, and we know Mike Piazza is as well, which really helps. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun trying to get this back to, as Joe said, 60s, 70s, thriving, thousands of people. We were just there, obviously recently doing some youth clinics, Milan, Piacenza, Parma. The fields and stadiums and setups still look like and feel like you're in the 60s and 70s, which for us, this romantic, great feeling when you're there. You could see and picture what it would have been like, but we want to see that develop too. So we not only want players to develop, we want the game, the facilities, the infrastructure, everything to get stronger again. And we see a path to that, but it's obviously it'll take a lot of work. So
I mean, you mentioned the recent draft, right? So that's outstanding. That's almost like 10%, right, of all the players are of some sort of Italian American heritage. I think that's incredible. But a lot of people might not realize all the, the current players. I was surprised to hear Garrett Cole, right? So he is of Italian heritage. Justin Verlander, didn't know that either. I mean, look, I am full-blooded Italian, but my husband's name is Polish. So, maybe you wouldn't know that my kid is of Italian heritage. So sometimes we go by these last names and we don't realize it. Lucas Giolito, that's pretty obvious one, but you've got Anthony Rizzo, Michael Conforto. There's so many currently out there playing. Do you know how many Italian Americans, for example, are playing in the game now?
There's over 100 in the game with some association of Italian ancestry, whether their last name is dominant, ending in a vowel, or it's through their mother's heritage, but at least 100. And that includes managers and coaches and front office executives. I mean, there's several people at the top of the game, general managers, presidents, team owners. We put them all in the same bucket of, you're Italian American, you're helping us. Just by being in your position, it proves that our ancestors came here for a reason. And in our world, it's to be players, sports executives, media members, and we like to shine a light on that wholeheartedly. And so, yeah, there's 100 plus in Major League Baseball. That does not include minor leagues or independent leagues, or even at the college ranks where there's dozens and dozens of coaches, let alone hundreds, if not thousands of players. So if you look at the total Rolodex, the total listserv of everybody associated with the game in America, it's thousands of people. And that's rewarding for us to see. But we try to shine light on that because the average person may not be looking at it from a cultural or a heritage perspective. We are, and we're the only ones doing that. So when we show, hey, 24 players drafted, hey, great job by these players being selected All-American, hey, these ones were selected for the All-Star game, nobody else on the planet is looking at it like we are. And it's, a very, very important niche for us to fill.
Yeah. Right. I imagine that it's also attracting all these young players over there, knowing that they have a shot to come over here and play, right?
That's the whole idea, is to get, some of the Italian kids into colleges, into the minor leagues, and hopefully one day to the major leagues. And that's where our scholarship program kicks in, that we are starting to bring kids from Italy to play college baseball and try to get to that next level. But if they didn't get to that next level, that's fine, because at least they're getting an education in an American college. And that's important. That's just as important as baseball.
I like the way you think, because education is critical, right? And you want to get them in education. Yeah. I think this is terrific. You've got all the right stuff in the right places. So scholarships, you raise your money, have a terrific gala, right? And that's coming up in the fall. Tell me about that.
Correct. November 30th is the actual date, and we're going to have it at Marina del Rey in the Bronx this year, because we've outgrown Giondo's on the water in Brooklyn. I believe we had 300 people last year, and the year before, we probably could have had 500 people attend. So we've gone to a much bigger location, and we're still working on our guest of honor. We do have Chris Mad Dog Russo will be receiving our media award this year. And Sal Agostinelli, it will be our executive this year. He works as scout he's a scout with the Phillies. And we still are working on a few other honorees to have. Mike Piazza will be hosting the event with us once again. It's going to be a great event, and looking forward to it. And like I said, we plan on having close to 500 people this year. So that's a big step up.
Don't sell out yet, because I want to get my tickets, because we are going to come for this. No, I'm not kidding. I think this is really, I want to support it. I think it's terrific what you're doing. Very unique. It's a unique way to, get Italians into the game, get young Italians from Italy into the game. But you do a lot here. I mean, it's a very, very unique concept. Talk to me also about, so the scholarship program, important. It's everything, right? Without that scholarship program, it's very difficult to do what you do without raising the money. Tell me what else you do. I know you have clinics. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, also on the scholarship, and I'll talk about the clinics and the youth development. Definitely scholarships. We started with a handful, and we got to about 10 this year. We're looking to do more than that. So we've given out, by the end of this year, over 20-25 scholarships to college baseball and softball players who have good academic standing, who go through an interview process where they have to talk about the meaning of their heritage. They provide a personal statement. They provide letters of recommendation, all based on heritage and culture. So it's everything that we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. It's the same thing we talk about with the scholarship recipients and why we're doing it. And we track them. We follow them. We keep tabs on how they're doing in the classroom and on the field. We try to go to their games. We try to promote how they're doing. So it's once you're in with us, and we want to continue to see their development. I think the best example that we have is this young ball player from Italy. He's from Parma. His name is Francesco Bonvini, who went to Kingsborough Community College. And then he, it's a community college, obviously, JUCO, junior college, did very well. Conference player of the year, All-American, all-conference, incredible pitcher, earned his way into the College of Staten Island. So he's playing Division II baseball now after his JUCO experience. And it's like we cannot talk more highly enough about him. And he was just in Italy with IABF doing some clinics back in his hometown in Parma. He's the prototypical get here, use the game to do it, follow him, make sure that he's doing the right thing, which he did. He's a leader. He's passionate. He's hungry to keep striving for more. And that's a great example of what our scholarship program is doing. In terms of youth development and clinics and things that we're trying to do to shed some light on both Italian players, but also Italian Americans here, we do the youth clinics in Italy so that they are taught and trained by usually Italian Americans that we bring over. Or in the case of this year, we had Matteo Bocci, who was a pitcher on Team Italy, who played Division I baseball at Texas here. Another one of those sort of Francesco Bonvini stories of going from Italy to America and thriving. So we had great instructors. We have incredible oversight from one of our other board members, Mark Cardillo, who played in Italy after his Division I career at Villanova. He played in Florence. He played in Milan. He sets the whole thing up. He's sort of the clinician. And then we do infield, we do outfield, we do pitching, we do some hitting. We look at the players that are really good. We talk to them about our scholarship program, and we hopefully serve as a moment and point of inspiration for them to love the game, to stay in touch, to eventually hopefully come to America to play. And I mean, we wish we could do this every day. I mean, we wish this was a full-time job because it's sort of intoxicating being there. Again, this romanticism of the game and Italy and these beautiful setting. So yeah, we're trying hard to make sure that we can grow and instill this passion. With the Italian Americans, that's on this soil, that's domestic. We're building pipelines so we can hopefully showcase their skill and also maybe create a path for them to eventually play in Italy one day. So it could be vice versa. We want the Italians to come here and play. We'd love to facilitate the ability for Americans to play in the Italian Baseball League one day as well. So it's sharing information, it's communicating, it's opening up dialogue with different stakeholders here and over in Italy, and none being more important than the Federation of Italian Baseball and Softball. That's the governing body of the sports there. But a lot of teeth, a lot of conversations, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of phone calls. It takes a lot of time to build all these things, and it's really about the next generation. Everything that we're stressing is about building for the next generation.
Right, Chris, Chris said it's a pipeline. Really, that's a great term. Pipeline between the U.S. and Italy, and all these things fit into the pipeline, and this is the development process.
Talk to me about how the Italian government is cooperative with all this. I just know that this has been a very positive experience, right? Between Italy, between us here in the U.S. They've been very cooperative, right, to get this going?
Well, the Federation of Italian Baseball and Softball, which is known as FIBS, has been our partner from day one. They've set up our clinics before COVID. We traveled to Sicily, to Tuscany, to Rome, and they've set up our clinics. We've taken former Met John Franco with us to conduct pitching clinics, and former Yankee Mike Pagarillo. And we did 2 or 3 weeks of clinics between the two players. And we had about close to, I was going to say, 1,000 young kids attending our clinics over the years. And it's
That's
great to
incredible.
see it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing, Deborah, because you see these kids. Baseball is not popular in Italy. We all know that soccer is the big game. They're the big dog. But these kids come here and they don't have really the money to buy baseball gloves, bats, uniforms. So they show up with secondhand gloves, bats with nails holding it together, but they're out there in 100-degree, 95-degree heat wanting to play baseball. And it's really something to see. It reminds me of days of my youth when we used to play with broken bats taped up. And these kids are out there playing, giving it 100%. And that makes it all worthwhile for us. And we bring the former major leaguers not only to give them instructions on playing, but give them an autograph, something that they can't get in Italy from major league players. They hardly ever go there. But I remember when I was a kid and I would get an autograph from a player. I didn't even know who he was, but that autograph meant the world to me. It meant the world to me. And I see that when the kids get an autograph from John Franco or Mike Pagliarillo, I see the look on their face and they're so happy and they take that autograph home. And hopefully that's part of this growing process of growing the game in Italy.
Let's talk a minute about softball, because you're also working in the world of softball. Tell me a little bit about developing that too.
Yeah, it's same idea, right, Joe? Everything that we're doing with baseball, you could say the same words, same campaign. Our scholarship winners are softball players as well, and we care about the growth of that game. Baseball obviously is bigger in terms of how it's viewed in general and the grand stage that it has in America. So it doesn't have the biggest pool of pro players to draw from, or a draft or a college scene that is as big as the way we're describing baseball. But we hope to see the passion from folks and young women playing softball just as much as we're talking about baseball.
Yeah, and I know that the interest is, just like you said, just as much as baseball, because it's also an interest of IABF. So I'm really glad that you have included softball and those women who want to get out and play, and people in Italy to be exposed to softball to come here. So I'm thrilled that you're involved with that. Let's talk a little bit about the Heritage Night, shall we? Italian Heritage Night. I know there's one coming up for the Angels. We've got the Yankees. Finally, we got on the roster with the Mets. Let's talk a little bit about the work you do for Italian heritage and baseball here in the States.
Well, that's Chris's department. Chris helps set up most of these Italian heritage games. So, Chris, you could talk about that. That's your alley.
Yeah. It's a lot of work also, because they don't exist, I feel like, until we make the call, until we find who the right person is to talk to in the marketing or the sales or the promotion department. There's no simple formula. Every game seems to be different. This year we have over 20 baseball Italian heritage games, most of them in the major leagues, some in the minors, some in the independent leagues. It serves as a really important event in all these cities because you're getting a captive audience. Thousands or tens of thousands of people potentially are just hearing Italian heritage, Italian American, seeing perhaps our logo on the scoreboard. In the rare cases and the most, I guess, the red carpet feel that we get in a few cities, they see us on field. They see us taking part in activations, first pitches, lineup deliveries, doing fun stuff before and after the game. It's not like that everywhere. And most importantly, in a lot of cases, a percentage of the ticket sales goes to IABF Scholarship Fund. So our Heritage Night games, in some cases, they may fund 2-3 scholarships that we have to offer. So it's all done really, again, for that reason. A, scholarship funding, if we can get it. B, brand awareness and marketing. C, why not Italian Americans? Why should there not be an Italian heritage game if there's heritage games for various other heritage groups and cultural groups out there? We cannot be left behind. We cannot be a forgotten group of people, especially with the amount of people who came to this country from Italy, our ancestors, by the millions, and the following generations then stayed and built our families and our lives here. Let's keep that going strong. Let's remember what it means to be Italian, and in our case, what it means to be Italian on the baseball field, because that's what we do. So, like I said, over 20 games. If you go to iabf.foundation, on the top of the site, you'll see a tab for heritage games or events. Click it and you'll see the full list. And each of the different games and cities and clubs have different methods of ticket sales. Some of them are specific where, again, we get a cut, which goes to the scholarship fund, which is vital. And it's a lot of fun, especially if we can get out to those games. We can't go to all 20 plus, as a board, but when we go, we do have a lot of fun, and we appreciate the clubs who are willing to work with us. And as I said before, this is not a sprint either. Each year we keep adding more. Last year we had a dozen or so. This year, 20 or so. I'd like to get to all 30 MLB clubs doing it at some point in the next couple of years, and I do believe it's going to happen.
Yep. I do too. I feel very strongly about that. It's one of the most fun nights. Italian heritage at Dodgers. I love it. I won't miss it. Yankees, and now, like I said, the Mets are finally on board there, which is terrific. Go ahead. I think Joe, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. If people are available and they want to go to a game and celebrate their heritage, and it doesn't have to be, if they want to go to Polish night or Irish night, whatever it is, it's a lot of fun. The ballparks do a great job. Sometimes they'll serve ethnic food. They'll have some kind of ethnic activity on the field. They play the music. It's a lot of fun. So I recommend it for anyone.
What does baseball mean to you in your heart, in your soul, and what does it teach young people? What are the lessons? There's a lot of lessons that come from baseball. Whoever wants to take it first. Go ahead.
Well, baseball to me was everything growing up. I mean, I used to sleep in my Met uniform. It was dirty, but I wanted to go to bed. I was a little kid. I loved baseball. I loved everything about it. It meant a lot to me. I played high school ball. It's as far as I went. And then even though life took its turns as I got older, getting married, I always had a connection with baseball. It never left me. And I love the game. I love the way it's a game of one-on-one, but yet it's a team game. And no other sport has that. You have to think with baseball. It's a thinking game. Decisions have to be made at the spur of the moment. And that's what I love about baseball. And I'm 63 years old and I still love baseball. And I don't think that's ever going to change. But it gives you a sense of growth as a person, and as a sports activity, it helps you develop competition within you. And that's what I love about baseball. It's very competitive.
It's amazing. Right, this little ball, this little piece of cork and leather and stitches means so much to so many people. It's amazing, I think, from a historical perspective. It's been played in some way, shape, or form since the late 1700s. And in its current form, since the late 1800s with all the, a lot of the current teams and cities. It's without associating it with Italy at all, it's a very important piece of American culture. I believe it defines who we are as Americans. When you look at, our pastime, and we look at a team like the Yankees or the Brooklyn Dodgers or the Giants, there's just so much beautiful history that has been made through the game that alone is special. If you look at it from how we're able to connect to our Italian culture because of it, it's almost difficult to put into words. And people see what we post on social media, they see what we do, and they just say, wow, I can't believe you did that. And I can't believe we did that half the time. I have to pinch myself. When we were in Milan, Carmine Gangone, our co-founder VP, he just looked at me and said, can you believe that we're doing this right now? And it's not the first time we've been associated with baseball in Italy.
Wow.
Every time we do, we look at each other and we go, yeah, I mean, we're doing it because of our ancestors. We're in our ancestors' country because of this game. So that connection factor is huge. And again, I have 3 little kids. My 8-year-old plays travel baseball. He's going through it. He's figuring out what you're supposed to do. He's understanding how to practice, how to learn from your weaknesses, how to be stronger in certain positions, arm angles, bat speed, tactical, strategy of the game. It's special for me to have that with him. And hopefully my 6-year-old, if he winds up liking baseball and getting into it as well. 3-year-olds, she's little and she's only doing dance right now. But, it's this father-son, it's this heritage connector, it's this cultural identity. So for all the right reasons, baseball is one of the greatest aspects of being an American. But Joe and I turned it into being an Italian American too.
I love it. And what about you? Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just say this. When I was a kid, my grandparents lived with us, so all the relatives would come over our house for Sunday dinner. And the talk would eventually evolve to Joe DiMaggio or Yogi Berra or Phil Rizzuto. And these people, these Italian baseball players were heroes to my immigrant grandparents. And they didn't know any other athletes other than these Italian baseball players. It meant the world to them when they seen Joe DiMaggio breaking records and on the news every night. And they were very proud. It made them proud, and they were proud of DiMaggio. And they carried that tradition on to my uncles, my father, who then, had the same respect for baseball players of their generation, the Joe Pepitones or Dave Righetti. And the same thing with me, Mike Piazza, Anthony Russo. So that tradition carried on from my grandparents on within my family. And going back, I remember those dinners early on in my life when everybody's yelling at the dining room table about Joe DiMaggio. It's great memories.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful to hear. Chris, same with you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing when I was 9. I was a really big, and still am in a lot of ways, sports memorabilia collector, as you can see from the things behind me.
You think?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I can't wait to come to your place. I'm going straight to the basement or wherever your office is, and I'm going to check that out. That's gorgeous.
A major part of my childhood was collecting baseball cards because of my dad. He would take me to card stores, which barely exist anymore. He would take me to the local card shows on weekends, the VFW Hall on a Sunday morning in Center Reach, to go and buy cards and check out what's new. So that has always been a part of my life for the last, over 30, 35 years. And so those moments with my dad connected me to the game. Getting a little bit older, you start to realize, the Mets are my team. Unfortunately, they've been letting me down. I was born the day after the Mets won the World Series. So I have not had a Mets World Series in my lifetime. Fast forward, I become the editor-in-chief of Topps, the baseball card company. Talk about a full circle, being associated with a brand that is bigger than yourself. At some point, I get involved with IABF. At some point, we're sipping espressos with Mike Piazza in a dugout in Tuscany. And Mike Piazza, for me, when I was 13, 14 years old, that was my guy. There was nobody bigger, better, for all the right reasons. Being a Met, being from Long Island and New York, loving that team. And then you associate, him being Italian, which I cared about even when I was younger. But now, again, tough to put into words. So there's all these special connections to the game that, I think Joe would agree. It's a part of who we are. We are as much tied to this game as it's tied to us. And we just want to make other people feel that way, love it for all the right reasons, and to experience a lot of things that we've gotten to and spread that good word of why baseball matters. And that's what we're doing on this. That's why we appreciate any time we could talk about IABF and the connection that we have to the game. We do it because it means something.
Well, it's such a positive thing that you guys are doing. It's really a great thing, right? It's just getting everybody involved. You're probably pinching yourself, as you said, as you're having that espresso with Mike Piazza, thinking, how did this even happen? But it did, because it all's coming from here, you guys, right? It's coming from the heart. It's coming from the passion, the love of the game. And somehow when your heart and mind are in the right place, things work out. And now here you are doing so much for these young players. Go ahead, Joe, you were going to say.
No, you're right. It's all from the heart. This is all from the heart. I believe that for Italians, baseball is part of our culture, our immigration culture. I really do. I believe that, like I said before, the DiMaggios and Rizzutos and Berras, they became part of our culture. And we're just carrying that on. That's all we're doing. We're not doing anything new or different. We're just carrying that on from our grandparents.
Yeah. Now, Chris, you talked about working for Topps. I want to get briefly into your background, your work, and also Joe, you as well, particularly with your company Mint Pros, which is really exciting. Either of you can take it away, whoever wants to go first. I mean, we are 3 Italians on this thing, so it's a miracle. Wait, it's a miracle we're not stepping all over each other. We've been rather good about that, right? So go ahead. Either of you take it away first. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I started a company called Mint Pros, and I started it back in the 90s. I used to go to the Yankees fantasy camp and the Mets fantasy camps, and I met a lot of former players. At the time, Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford owned the camp, and they would invite a lot of their teammates, and people would pay to play with these guys for a week in Florida. And I met a lot of the old timers that were teammates of Mantle and Ford, and they didn't make much money. So we started talking to them, having dinner every night and breakfast, and saying, when we come to New York for Old Timers Day, I wish we could make some money to supplement our income because they get small pensions from Major League Baseball. So I said, well, let me think about it and figure out ways that I could help you guys make money when you come to New York. So first thing I did, I set some guys up, Hank Bauer, Moose Gowan, Tom Tresh, Johnny Blanchard, a lot of former older Yankee guys. I would set them up in autograph shows, like Chris had mentioned before about autograph shows, and that was good. But after a while, it seemed like I wanted to do something different besides autographs. So I thought of meet and greet events. People would meet these players, get their autograph, maybe have dinner with them, and that worked out very well. Then I took it to the next level. I said, how about watching a game with a former Met or former Yankee player at Shea Stadium or Yankee Stadium? So I rented out a suite, I believe it was at Yankee Stadium, in the old stadium. The suites were nothing like they are today. And I sold out, I believe, 40 tickets the first year. I think it was 2003, maybe. And people loved it. They couldn't wait to get more. They're calling, emailing me, when are you going to have this again? It was great to watch the game with these players and listen to their stories. Well, to make a long story short, I now do suites at Yankee Stadium with 300 to 400 people at a game. And I bring about 7, 8, 10 players. And I've had everyone from Mariano Rivera to Tino Martinez to Joe Girardi. I've had dozens and dozens of Yankees and Mets, and it's taken on a life of its own. And tickets sell out. 400 tickets sell out within a matter of days. And
I want to go to one of these. I want to go to one of these. Now, Chris, that's fantastic. Chris, tell us about you. I know that you and I have had very similar paths. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a journalist. I'm a media executive by trade. My career in journalism and storytelling, it's really interesting how it's kind of ebbed and flowed with society and the trends in media. So I started off at a weekly community newspaper, the Southampton Press in the Hamptons on Long Island. Then I went into digital and I became an editor at the New York Daily News website, doing sports, politics, and New York City news. Then I was fully online with AOL and something called patch.com, which was their hyper-local news engine.
Right.
And then I go into the editor-in-chief role at Top. So I'm going from journalism to sports content, but it became fully digital with mobile apps and building an e-commerce business and doing business development and licensing and all these different areas of business, for lack of a better term, that I had never experienced before. All of those things led me to, I became the vice president of Altice News and News 12 networks, as well as Cheddar News and I-24 News, a big sort of local, national, international media company. I did that for about 5.5 years, and that's broadcast, that's television, that's web, that's streaming services, which then did, after that tour of duty, I went into what I'm doing now, which I'm not talking fully about what it is yet because it's still in the entrepreneurial building phase. But by the end of the year, you'll see and you'll hear about some new sports media specific products that I'm building that are going to come out that are ebbing and flowing with some of the other forms of technology that are helping craft stories today. And so onto something fun and new, but storytelling, multi-platform storytelling, understanding digital. And then I'm also a professor, a journalism professor, and I run the graduate journalism program at Hofstra University, where I went to school. So it's special for me. Again, education, youth, crafting the next generation, in this case of storytellers. I feel really passionate about making sure that people know the right way to use the technology, the right way to tell stories. And so journalist through and through.
Okay, final moments. You want to give a shout out to anybody? Tell people how they can donate anything. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the best way would be to go to our website, www.iabf.foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Not only could you learn more about the IABF, but you could also make a donation directly from the website. And anyone that wants to get involved with us, send us an email. Um, is probably the best way that we could, get back to you quick. And we're always looking for people to get involved. We're always looking for sponsorships, and that's all. I mean, that would be fantastic if we could get some help. That would be great.
Yeah, and the gala, is that open to anyone?
Anyone could buy a ticket. Are they on sale yet, Chris? Did they start?
No, I think we'll probably open it up in August. Give it 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll have the full ticket page up, and which you can find on obviously IABF.foundation, but also just search for IABF on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you'll find us.
Yeah. And how about you? Any final words, Chris? You want to give a shout out to anyone, a player, anybody?
No, just I think to our board. I think
Right.
Carmine Gangone, Joe DiMartino, Natalie Spedalieri, Mark Cardillo, Frank Catalanato, another big name. He played baseball in the big leagues for 14 years, and he's one of the founding board members. And of course, Mike Piazza, Gianmarco Ferrone from Fibs, Marco Landi from Fibs, Andrea Marcone from Fibs. Everybody I just mentioned is integral in what we've achieved so far and what we're going to be building for the years to come. And I implore everybody to check us out online on social, follow our newsletter, and come along for the ride, because we are making change. We are showing really great signs of growth, and it's because of all those people and all those names, and obviously and especially Joe and Carmine, who built it all. And I'm just grateful to be in the trenches with them, and I'm grateful for you for having us on to talk about our experiences and our story.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing this. Like I said, two of my favorites, baseball and Italian life and heritage and all of it. So it's been an honor for me to do this. And I am going to spread the word. We have a sizable YouTube fan base, and I'm just going to get it out there and let people know what you're doing, especially out here on the West Coast. I was born in New Jersey, so I am a Jersey girl. Ended up in Florida with my family because my dad, ended up working for Tropicana Orange Juice, and then ended up out here for work. So I'm sort of a tri-coastal person. But especially the folks out here who might not really know about IABF, I'm going to tell, really spread the word. Doing terrific work, fellas. I look forward to seeing you out in November too. So thank you very much for joining us. Also, my friend Mariana Gatto, who initially said, Deborah, come on, your baseball family, you've got to interview these guys. So thank you, Mariana. I think she's on a plane to New York right now that I think about it.
She's been to our gala. She's been to our gala before. She's great.
Yeah, she's lovely. So thanks again to that. And everyone in baseball, all the Italian heritage folks, all you do, thank you. And our show you can find on our Little Italy podcast and Little Italy of LA podcast, but also on Deborah Kobylt Live. You'll find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and then as an audio podcast, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Amazon, we're on Apple, just about anywhere you get a podcast. Just type in Little Italy podcast. You'll find this interview or Deborah Kobylt Live. So thank you, everybody. Chris and Joe, especially Joe, just returning. We almost weren't sure we were going to get Joe today, and he was kind enough to take the time. So thank you both. And everybody will